I think I'm still waiting for this like comprehensive approach that has a huge trauma lens is what I'm waiting for, because I think I want to shelter people, I want to feed people, and I want to clothe people, basic necessities, right?
Absolutely.
But I also want to take care of people appropriately, and I want to do it in a safe way that like improves actual well-being. I want to heal the root causes. And so I don't know. I'm waiting to see these proposals where it's like, yes, we want to shelter, but we also are going to provide like intensive case management and therapy and like get people on board that need to be on board. Like we want to silo things a bit still, I think. And it's like, if we don't have our law enforcement on board, if we don't have our EMS systems, if we don't have our hospital systems, our emergency departments, like we don't have psychiatric care in Alton. We don't have crisis stabilization in Alton. And, we need things. And so
All right. So tonight we're joined by Megan Tyler of Sacred Spaces of Care. You work with the city, correct, to
Correct.
help our unhoused population. So do you want to tell me a little bit about how you ended up in Alton and what it is you do?
Sure. So I'm born and raised in Alton, or always lived in the surrounding communities my entire life. Most of my family, third, fourth generation or beyond, Altonians. And I started Sacred because I have people in my life that I have walked through some mental health challenges, active addiction, suicide ideation, and unfortunately lost a loved one to suicide, and a variety of other co-occurring related issues. And I know firsthand how difficult it is to navigate those spaces and walk alongside individuals in that space. And I felt like it was kind of a gap in the community that we needed to address. And I picked Alton because I live here, I work here, my kids go to Alton schools, like it's my backyard. And so why would I start anywhere else? And so that's kind of how it got launched. And basically just wanted to be a person that would just come alongside people in those situations and kind of just say, here's who I am and what I do, and what can we do to assist you, and walk alongside as you're navigating whatever pathway to healing you want that to look like, or whatever, assistance you might need.
All right. So when did Sacred Spaces start?
We incorporated in February of 2023.
Okay.
It was a little slow going at first, just getting programs off the ground, funding. We had zero funding. I put a board of directors together, got connected with the police department. Was actually kind of inadvertent. I had no connection to them prior, and Chief Ford had just taken over as chief a couple of months prior to that. And I basically reached out to him and said, as a complete stranger, here's who I am and what I want to do in the community. And it was more for an awareness. Like, we want to be out on the streets, and we believe in going to the needs. So if we're going to be out there, we want you to know that we're going to be out there. And when I met with him, we just really clicked on like some of the goals that we wanted to see happen, and some of the change that we were hoping to affect in really trying to divert from criminal justice and get people into appropriate care. And so after that meeting, he said, like, what do you think about linking up and doing this? And he's kind of the one that proposed it at first. And then I just kind of started exploring that, and my board discussed it, and we started moving that direction. And I wrote my very first grant ever to try to get propelled and off the ground, and miraculously got it. And then that's kind of what got us going. We had no private funding or corporate funding or anything like that. And here we are now. So.
All right. And where did the name come from? Is it a secular organization, or is it like attached to churches?
So we didn't incorporate as a faith-based organization. There's a few people connected to it that are Christians, but no, Sacred also is not, one physical geographic space. We just kind of came up with that name because we wanted to create that safe space, whether that is in a physical location or just, coming alongside and being in that space where it's just open and accepting and really just unique. We'll probably dig into a little bit to trauma and stuff, but when you have a lot of trauma or have experienced that in life, it's so unique to the individual that like our pathways to healing look very different. So there's no one size fits all. And so it's not pushing any specific faith or religion or anything like that. It's just a safe space for everybody, or sacred space. So.
All right. Yeah. No, I mean, we're
I love that.
both trauma survivors here.
Yes. There was some intentionality behind it actually to not do it for those reasons too, because, there's religious trauma in and of itself, and a lot of people aren't going to be receptive to that, or being receptive to even going into those types of physical spaces.
And I'm personally a fan of Chief Ford, even though I don't like cops, which is...
You made known, we know.
Yeah, like
it's all good.
Yeah, we're like you're in the same boat there with the whole distrust of law enforcement. Yeah, we're
Yeah.
We're not,
Police.
yeah, we're,
A little bit,
wow,
tiny
just
bit,
going
like, just a
straight
tiny
ACAB
bit.
here, huh? But no, I do like
Yeah.
Chief Ford, and I kind of want to ask what makes the Alton Police different than other police departments, or what would the average person of Alton not understand about what's going on with the Alton Police when dealing with unhoused populations? Like, what makes it not something to be afraid of?
Yeah, so I mean, there's just so many diverse perspectives, and I don't think anyone is coming at this with any kind of ill intent. It's based on your experiences and what you have observed or what you've encountered yourself. There's always going to be the back and forth between, wanting law enforcement to kind of stay out of this realm because, and trust me, they would love to, because when you're talking about crisis and when you're talking about mental health challenges and substance use disorders and trauma, they weren't trained for that. They were tactically trained, right, for public safety, for to serve and protect, right? But unfortunately, in some ways, our law enforcement agencies have almost got this burden of becoming a social service agency in many ways, because when crisis does occur, they're the only ones who are responding because no one else is, right? And sometimes our vulnerable populations are not committing a crime at all. I had the stats when we first started Sacred, and I can't tell you off the top of my head. We have something called CIT, which is Crisis Intervention Teams, and we track the amount of calls that law enforcement and Alton specifically get over the course of the year. And there's a huge percentage of them related to the unhoused or substance use or mental health challenges where a crime's not even being committed at all, right? Where somebody's in distress or a passerby drives by and is concerned about someone, or maybe there's someone suspicious outside or whatever the call, originates as, and then they have to go and check on it, right? And so from my perspective, no one is perfect, and I won't make any types of excuses and try to claim that Alton is better than other agencies or doing things perfectly by any stretch. But there has been a shift, and there's been an attempt to try to engage people a little better than I think maybe it has happened in the past. Is it perfect every day? No, not at all. And I'll never claim that. As far as like the proactive outreach, that was because when we initiated this partnership, we have an unhoused population, right? And we're encountering them every day, and they're visible in the community. And that was an attempt to try to say, like, hey, we are here to get you appropriate care. When we roll up and I'm with an officer and we're engaging an individual now, it's not in an intimidation way. It's not in we don't care about warrants half the time. We're not searching your belongings. We don't care what's going on in the moment.
Going to ask you about Mayor Goins has mentioned that no one has been arrested from your guys'
Strabel said that.
Oh, was it Strabel? I couldn't remember.
Not the entire outreach. I can speak, and we may get to the camping ordinance later. No, there's been no arrests or fines related to that. Now, our entire outreach, yes, because sometimes when I'm on scene, there is actual crime being committed, or there's like violent offender related things, and yes, they're taken to jail. So not the entire outreach.
I think he said something about like drugs, that they're not looking for drugs.
Correct.
Or anything like that. So what if they would have find drugs then?
Well, they don't search. I mean, I can't speak to every single case because there's going to be some differences. Like, again, there's going to be some stipulations. Like if there's an awareness that there's someone who is an extremely violent offender, or like there's warrants for, this is where you really need to go to Chief Ford, because I don't want to speak on behalf of the PD, but there's certain things. Most of the time when we proactively are engaging, we are just having a conversation, and we're saying, for me, it's, my name's Megan, here's what I do. I'm not a law enforcement officer. I try to help people navigate if you're looking for treatment, if you're looking for housing, whatever assistance we can provide. The officers having those same kind of conversations, and we're not running names to see if they have warrants most of the time. We're not searching any belongings. I mean, they're allowed to get in the police vehicle and be transported to a location of their choosing or wherever we're taking them without even being searched or anything that entire time.
Okay.
So, again, it's not 100% because there could be like an elevated risk for an individual that I'm unaware of, or a level of offense that's too high of a degree that we can just ignore that type of a warrant or something. So it's not 100%, but it's a conscious effort to not worry about those things in the moment and really just say like, hey, we want to get you help, and we know that jail is not help. So, yeah.
All right. Yeah, no, I can't really argue anything there. So how have your interactions with Chief Ford gone about this? I mean, it sounds like you're you started out genuinely surprised that he said, "Hey, yeah, come on, let's do this."
Well, I
Like,
didn't know him,
right.
I had heard that he was, wanting positive things. I had heard that he was kind of mental health minded, even like
Hmm.
internally, because the one thing that we do differently too is we also work on wellness within law enforcement
Interesting.
because they have a lot of chronic trauma exposure.
Hmm.
There's a lot of substance use within the law enforcement population that's unhealthy, a lot of broken relationships. The occupational stress related to that. They see people in their worst moments, right?
Yes.
Chronically. They see things, hear things, smell things that never leave their memory.
Hmm.
That's not healthy. It's like our military coming back with PTSD, right? So we work on that internally as well because a happier and healthier law enforcement officer is also going to mean a happier and healthier community. Like the way you engage people most of the time is your own nature and your mindset going into things, right? And so we try to work on things for them related to physical fitness and nutrition and their sleep habits and relationships and financial wellness and all those types of things, and that kind of translates into what we do in the community when we're walking alongside people in crisis or in
So how
those
does that
situations as
look? Is it
well.
like do they get therapy or
They
how
can.
does
So we have a
like what
program.
services do you offer?
So we don't provide the therapy itself, but we provide linkage to it. We do have some therapists that come in as part of our program and we'll give different like wellness chats and have conversations and stuff. There's a program called Healthy Minds where they can actually go to therapy, and those therapists are specifically trained in working with first responders. And then we bring in trainers that talk to them that are actually like former law enforcement that have kind of gone through and have their own lived experience that can share back of like
Almost
what
like a
they've
peer
learned.
kind of
And
counseling
yes,
kind
like
of
a
thing?
peer kind of thing. And we do some family oriented events and things like that to kind of just elevate that. And so it's a variety. It's kind of like a comprehensive, pretty
love
wide
that,
variety
yeah.
of things. So
That's incredible. I have a friend who's a cop somewhere
yeah,
else, and he said that one of the things he's trying to get is more people on the force to go to therapy because he's
yes,
like, hey,
absolutely.
we see a lot of horrible shit. What if we had help? And like,
Exactly.
that's something that like, you know, I'm in a lot of like leftist spaces, and I see like a lot of stuff that's critiquing cops, and I agree with a lot of it, but
Yeah.
the idea that like cops have mental health challenges that need
Mm-hmm.
addressed
Yeah.
to make a better community is one that I don't see addressed enough. And it's one that I've genuinely believed in for a very long time as well. It's like
Mm-hmm.
I was a reporter for a long time. So it's
Yes.
like I would be at certain things that cops are at, and I was like, Jesus, if I see one more dead kid, I'm gonna lose my fucking
Yeah.
mind.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So knowing that they go do that day in and day out, but like my friend was telling me there's a stigma in the law enforcement community
Mm-hmm.
about going to therapy or
Very much so.
admitting you need help. And that's
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that Alton's breaking that stigma and actually like working proactively to ensure that
Absolutely.
like mental health for everyone is should be the goal. So are unhoused people apprehensive to talk to you whenever you show up with a cop though? Like,
I've had a little bit of everything, to be honest.
okay.
I've had some that definitely are resistant at first. Most of them are pretty open, especially like I am vested when I'm with a cop, and that's protocol. So they see vest, but they also see like I don't really appear to be a cop. Like I don't really have
Mhm.
a cop vibe. I'm not carrying a gun. I don't have a badge. So they can clearly see like she's got a vest on, but there's something else going on, right? And
Mhm.
so usually once I start speaking to them and just tell them who I am and a little bit about my story and like my loved ones and why I'm doing this, then they're a lot more open and receptive. There's some that stay kind of a little more guarded, that it's a little, harder to break through some of those barriers. And there's probably more trauma there that, that there is for others. But I have never had anybody just blatantly refuse assistance from me simply because I'm with law enforcement. There's going to be some guardedness, but usually we can work through that once I build trust and rapport and things like that. And if somebody's mad at me, it also could be because what we offered isn't really what they wanted, or
Mhm.
like we try to work with people who are on a trajectory for something. Like we don't have funding to just hand you what you want all the time. We try
Mhm.
to provide a meal here and there, or provide some clothing if we need to, or some hygiene items, and like we can do that at times, but also you've got to engage and like come along with us. You got to put in the work too. I'm sure, Nicole, you can, with being someone with lived experience,
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
whether you're working a program, whether you're not, or whether you're in it, or what you're trying to get out of it. So sometimes I have to say, I'm sorry, but we can't provide that anymore. And so, of course, they're not going to be, thrilled in that moment. But it's not because of my law enforcement involvement.
May I ask, so in what context do you approach people? Like, what situation? Can you give us an example of like a time, or even just like, what are they doing? Or is it always when the police are called on a call, or are you just riding around?
So it can be a lot of different scenarios. I can co-respond like with an officer. So we're called to a specific scene for some type of reason. We have it's called a CIT detail. Those officers are working overtime and they're signing up for that to specifically go out with me proactively and just check in on people and see what we can do to assist. Sometimes it could be in a person experiencing a mental health crisis or potential like suicide attempt or ideation. It could be during an overdose. There's, a variety of ways that, just kind of depends on what's going on in the moment and how.
So it's not just
I engage.
exclusively for the unhoused, it's also just in
No,
general, like a whole encompasses mental health in general.
Yeah, in fact, that's something that I probably should clear up, I think, for the general public too, is like we're kind of known for like supporting the unhoused, but it's really a small fraction because, we're responding to residences where there's crisis going on. We're trying to support kiddos where maybe there was a domestic violence situation or DCFS is involved. My social worker and I have been able to like advocate for individuals who are already receiving care, but not at the level that they need. Like we've been able to kind of increase, like talk to their clinical teams and increase their care. We've tried to help families from being evicted. So before they even experience homelessness, a lot, it's very multifaceted because there's really nothing that we won't do. And our services are free of charge. And so for somebody to be able to link up with an organization like ours and have like a case manager per se, like interim until we can get them linked somewhere is huge. We're not the provider, but we're just kind of that fill in the gap until we can get them where they need to go. So.
All right.
Yeah.
Nicole, I got a question for you. Whenever you were experiencing homelessness, did you have encounters with police? And if so, how were they compared to what she's describing?
They were, honestly, I'm not going to lie, most of them weren't that bad. I had some encounters, mainly when me and the person I was with at the time were panhandling. So there's a few times we got called our apartment complex. They were very rude, threatening though. Like it wasn't like they were coming with batons and being like, we're going to kick you guys out of here. But like they were definitely like, what are you doing? Very, didn't even, basically if we didn't get gone, we were going to get arrested kind of thing. Yeah. I was lucky. Like, I guess I was lucky. I didn't have very many run-ins with the police when I was on the street, but.
And I think too, like, I'm glad you kind of said like, move along. 'Cause if you talk to a lot of law enforcement officers, they don't have a lot of tools in their belt with like how to help. So they'll tell you like, we just shuffle people along. We just shuffle them, and so we came along and we're still not solving it all because there's still huge gaps and there's only so many people and the need is significant. But a lot of them will use those exact words. Like until you came along, we were just kind of like shuffling people along because what do you do? They don't know like the complexities. You guys probably know because you're engaged in therapy and you come from trauma backgrounds, but like how hard it is to navigate our systems to receive care and the barriers that our systems put on people. So there's a lot of officers, honestly, some of them went into this because they wanted to help and they have compassion or had and they're burnt out, but like it's also because they don't know what to do with people. They're not trained. Like this is why we need more like people like what I'm doing with navigation or like clinicians, or I really like the navigational piece of it because you get to know the resources. And so, like what's available and how to get them linked up to certain things and what kind of intakes people have to go through. It helps the person also to have somebody walk alongside that and then know what to expect and have somebody, like I tell people all the time, I also like I'm a pursuer of people. So like if I haven't heard from you in a while, or if I'm not going anywhere and I'm not giving up, so I'll try to and I'm not a perfect person and I fail constantly, and I don't ever want anyone to get the perception that we're doing it right or well all the time, because we're not. Let's be honest. But we're trying to just make an attempt at least and make a dent, and if we can help one person, that's one more person that's not struggling on their own. So that's the goal.
How many people in this area would you estimate are experiencing homelessness?
That's tough. There's lots of definitions too when it comes to
Let's
homeless,
go
unhoused,
unsheltered.
unsheltered. Okay.
Let's go completely unsheltered.
I mean, completely unsheltered in Alton
Yeah, in Alton
specifically. I mean, we have
specifically.
dozens. I mean, there's a lot of camps. There's a lot of camps. Some of them more discreet than others. A lot of people are visible. I've always felt like the point in time counts are way under that the county does. And there's a lot of transient population though between we have a lot that stick close to Alton, but a lot kind of go back and forth between East Alton and Wood River and Alton. And so, like, where do you really count them? I mean, countywide they would count, but like, where do they really fall? What is home to them per se? Might look different. I don't know how they would define that, but I mean, there's quite a lot. I don't know if I really want to throw out a number, but I mean, dozens of people for sure.
Okay. Okay. And you're talking about tents, and this is something
Yeah.
that we were on different sides of, and I
Yeah.
desperately want to know your perspective.
I'm like the oddball. Like I was one out of what, 20
You were
something?
one out of a lot.
I
and
know.
and Mark Twain said if you're on the side of the majority, you need to think twice. So
Yeah.
it's like
Okay.
I do want to visit that because I like hearing things
Yeah.
from people who have similar goals to me, like wanting to make the world a better place,
Yeah.
who have different ways of doing it. So I have to ask, what made you for the anti-camping ban?
So this is a delicate one because I do struggle, but there were no parameters before the camping ban. So that's the one thing that I would say. So before an ordinance was written, when it came to public camping and dealing with the unhoused and the homeless population, there were no parameters for law enforcement to work within. So if you flip the script a little bit, the ordinance in some ways can protect that because before, if they would engage, they could have moved them immediately. They could have probably confiscated possessions, searched everything. Like really, they didn't have any protocols or parameters to work within. And so what I was told whenever this kind of started coming through and like Chief Ford let me look at it and there were others in the community was that officers were actually asking like, what do we do? Because it became a really prevalent, like increased issue, like pretty, and I mean, over time, but somewhat suddenly as well. And it's like, what can we do and what are we allowed to do and what can we not do? So one of the goals I believe was to provide those parameters, number one. Secondly, I just wanted, if it was going to go through, I wanted it to be protect people as much as possible. And so I feel that accepting the camping is so incredibly inhumane because not that I understand why we need it. Like nobody has anywhere to go. We don't have houses. We don't have shelters, right?
I mean,
So
we
that's
do
the
have
only
houses,
option.
but
Right.
Yeah.
convincing people to
another
give
episode.
somebody a house is
Correct. That's a whole other topic. I guess because I had a first like upfront and close look, I also was just seeing a lot of the danger that is in the camps and a lot of the abuse that's in the camps. And when I was speaking to unhoused individuals at that time, like the fear was in each other more than it was so in other places. I had a family right around that same time, 4 kids that were camping with a mom, like when that ordinance was being written. And I won't say specifically what I suspected was happening, but just what was happening was not safe, nor was it healthy. And honestly, to be quite honest, in that position, I would have loved to have had something to say, like, no, you need to move along to certain individuals because of what was possibly happening to those kids in that situation who were homeless at that point in time. And I just, there's assault that happens in those camps. There's a lot of drug paraphernalia and a lot of things that can be dangerous to others in the community. It's not, I've got people with lived experience all around me and they're my closest friends and they're the most dearest people. So it was never something that I was for because I was trying to criminalize or anything like that. But I also I want to protect people at all costs. And in some ways, I almost felt like it was a cop out where we're saying like, we're just going to accept that camps are okay. You know what I mean? When they're not. I trusted Chief Ford too with like where they were going with it. And I don't know if everybody knows this, but we spent several weeks having these work group sessions where a variety of people from the community actually worked on drafting the language of the ordinance. And there were some from the Salvation Army and the OWL and Centerstone and Hand Up Housing and like a lot of the organizations that are working on this got an opportunity to come together and actually change some of the language in the ordinance and
I do
promote
remember that.
language.
I did not know that.
And
That's
so
pretty cool.
finally, the final product that ended up being approved was the result of like all of those collaborative sessions. So, again, I mean, all I can say now is like it didn't allow for arrests anyway, but no one's been arrested and no one has been cited. Like anyone with common sense is going to know, like, you're going to, fine a homeless person. Like, we're not going to get money like that. You know what I mean? Like, so the criminalization side of it was never really a concern for me. What it did allow from that ordinance, then we went back and I worked with Chief Ford on some protocols and policies and stuff. And so we have like, this is what officers need to do when they're engaging camps. And one of those requirements is that they have to provide assistance. Like, I have to be contacted. We have to provide options for them. We have to see if we can get them linked to any type of treatment or care, like before it ever comes to like, hey, we really need you to move along or find a new spot. Like, we know that there's nowhere to go, right? Sometimes it's not, so it's just like a safety concern, and like, we understand you need to keep camping, but like, let's work together. This particular spot is just not working. Like, can we find you a new spot?
I do
That kind of thing.
I do understand what you're saying about the group camps. They
Yes.
are dangerous in and themselves.
They are. Anytime it gets more congregate, it gets harder.
I witnessed some. I used to live in Springfield, and that's where I was homeless.
Yes.
And a lot of people, they've since tried to stop it, but it's the library was the main source, and people used to camp out like all the time. And it was over a sandwich. Somebody got his head stamped in, and he died. And it was really sad because we all knew the guy. He was, kind of a folk hero around. Kind of like you, honestly. But he was. Yeah, and for a sandwich, for something like we had a bread line, we had tons of resources in the community for food, but it was just.
We know they need to camp, and when I engage individuals, my best advice is like, kind of just stay to yourself for the most part, or find like, one trusted person if you want, and then just kind of, find your spot and stay discreet. Like, we know you're camping. Unfortunately, it's just society too. Like, people drive by and they see it and they're going to complain about it, like citizens, and that's going to happen. Or they get a lot of trash buildup, and then we have litter and stuff everywhere, just flooding all these spaces. Or there's been people like literally out with kids and they've had to call because they found like needles, laying on the ground and stuff. Like, so there's certain pieces of it that it's kind of needed. I think the ordinance itself, there was probably just, a lot of, not necessarily misconception or lack of education. Like, I think everybody we want the best for people. We're trying to protect people, but there's very different, approaches. And I don't know, hopefully it doesn't cause harm. It hasn't yet, but I can't obviously guarantee that or promise it. But
I mean, one of the reasons that I trust Jared for with it, but if somebody else had it,
right,
I don't know if I would trust them. Like, that was my like deepest core of it was, ooh, what if a different mayor happens? What if a different police chief happens? How is that going to happen?
I agree. Yeah, I think you run the
break.
risk.
Well, we're going to take a little 30-minute break. Or not 30-minute break. Wow. It's the break that happens in 30 minutes. We'll take a little break, then we'll regroup, and I'll talk to you about fact-checking the mayor. And I believe you do Narcan workshops?
We do.
Okay, yeah. So perfect.
Sounds good.
That'll be great. So can I get one of them water?
If you have thoughts on this episode, comment. We want to hear from you. That's why we're doing this. Without you, like, what the fuck are we doing?
Hey, if you like what you heard, like and subscribe. That was normal. That was a normie one. That was such a normal take. All right, we're back from the break. We were just talking about the anti-camping ban, and now I want to pick your brain about the mayoral candidates. We asked each one of them about unhoused people in Alton and mental health, actually.
Yeah.
And you've worked with Goins and you've worked with Strable on things, I'm sure. So I'm gonna just run by what they said about it and see how it fits your sniff check.
Okay.
So Walker, he said, basically, homelessness is too big of a problem for Alton to deal with. We need state and federal grants. Is that, in your experience, true, or is that missing something?
I think we need a comprehensive approach, which probably should include state and federal, and those elected officials and grants have to be part of it. But no, there's absolutely things that I also think that we can do homegrown right here in Alton. But my thing about how we address it in general is a very comprehensive approach, which I can get into the details of that if you'd like.
Yeah, go ahead. I'd love to hear more about it.
Well, I just think, some of the other hot topics were, the homeless shelter and
that got knocked out by the county.
Yeah, I never spoke publicly in favor or against it. I want people to be sheltered, right? I want people to be sheltered. And I think I'm still waiting for this like comprehensive approach that has a huge trauma lens is what I'm waiting for, because I think I want to shelter people, I want to feed people, and I want to clothe people, basic necessities, right?
Absolutely.
But I also want to take care of people appropriately, and I want to do it in a safe way that like improves actual well-being. I want to heal the root causes. And so I don't know. I'm waiting to see these proposals where it's like, yes, we want to shelter, but we also are going to provide like intensive case management and therapy and like get people on board that need to be on board. Like we want to silo things a bit still, I think. And it's like, if we don't have our law enforcement on board, if we don't have our EMS systems, if we don't have our hospital systems, our emergency departments, like we don't have psychiatric care in Alton. We don't have crisis stabilization in Alton. And,
We need it.
we need things. And so was I for or against? I mean, I was in the middle. Like, I want a shelter. I'm not a huge congregate person either, though, just like with the camps. Like, there's other methods of sheltering that also aren't as congregate, where we bring everybody together in one. I also think we need to get much more transparent with the community about what we're trying to accomplish. Like, that proposal also was not low barrier. So people need to understand what that
Yep.
means and the definition of that and who it would actually serve and who it wouldn't serve.
Drug addicts were not.
There's a lot of misconceptions and lack of education on who was even going to be able to be sheltered in that facility,
I know
right?
when I was in shelters, there was like, I was saying something last night to Pastor Peter, there were certain rules. So like if you were an addict and you were using past 5, they wouldn't let you in at
Correct.
night.
Yeah.
You had to be clean. If you even looked a little bit high, if they found a bottle on you, you were immediately tossed out into the streets. And I think that shelters, I think, are needed, but I do think that it is very difficult because, like, I have seen most of the cases was mental health and substance abuse.
Yes.
That
Yep.
was the reason. So
Yeah.
if you can't be allowed into those spaces when you are high,
Yeah.
or when you are using, or when you are in, like, for example, like my brother has schizophrenic
Yes.
episode.
Yes.
Like, I mean,
And if you can shelter all day long, but if you don't have that intensive case management and that therapy built in, and like we're not healing the root. So that's what scares me about some of those things, is without having those components ready to go. And I think you can probably attest to this. Like, when you engage certain people in like conditioned environments, they're lovely people, right? At the end of the day, let's be honest, they can be very dangerous, very unpredictable. I mean, these are my people I'm talking about, my own family, my own friends, right? So I'm not putting, generalizations or criticisms on anybody, but when you're dealing with like mental health, like psychosis or substance use, psychosis,
I mean, the
like,
guy who killed that guy about the sandwich, I smoked
Exactly.
crack with him.
So-
Like, it was like,
right.
like
I
he
mean,
was fine when we were smoking crack.
I smoked crack with the sandwich stomper.
Yeah, but no, it's different environments though.
different
Like, he was getting
environments.
high, it was in his element, and then he got
Okay,
had a
yeah, no,
break,
no.
and
Yeah.
somebody pissed him off.
So
Like,
we
yeah.
need universal health care and universal housing, is what you're saying.
we just need we need a comprehensive approach that is addressing the whole well-being of a person. And that's
How could we have that in Alton though? Because like I know that there's a lot of things like down at like Granite City. What's that? Gateway. Yeah, they have a lot of issues with beds filling up.
They do.
There's waiting lists for things. There's not enough people taking care of this at the moment, and like rehab and like sobriety programs. If they're not religious based, then there's very few of them.
We don't have we have options.
Okay.
So I don't want to say that we don't, because
What
a
are
lot
some
of
of
people
our
want to use
options?
that. So Gateway is our only crisis stabilization, right? But they did away with their pediatric unit. So if you're a juvenile around our area, it is almost impossible to get any type of appropriate care.
Most
I mean,
of
we
the
have
time
kids,
you're being sent to Lincoln Prairie.
Lincoln
and
Prairie. I mean,
Springfield,
you're sending kids way outside of their own community, and they might be
Oof.
waiting in the ER for 4 or 5 days just in an ER bed, because they can't even get them to a residential facility yet. So we have no pediatric crisis anywhere near us. Adult crisis, Gateway is fairly sufficient. Like, they do a great job. So I'm props to them on that, but they're the only one. We don't have crisis stabilization anywhere else. And so, that's where you get into the dilemma when it comes to, substance use treatment. This is going to sound terrible, but when I engage an individual, it's almost better if they're an addict, because that opens more opportunities for treatment, for beds, for facilities. To try having a mental health challenge only, like getting that level of care, or like a residential type care for that, is much more difficult without the substance use. I think one of my things too is like we have a lot of options, but like those options, do they help people maintain and sustain? Are we making people well, or are they staying sick? Because a 28-day rehab and then you're back out on the street again because there's no sustainability plan or there's no sober living available, or, what does that look like? And so, I can, work all day long to try to break down these barriers and get people where they need to go. But then that's only one piece. How do we keep them well and like, put those support systems in place? A lot of people, if you've been dealing with a 10, 15, 20, 30-year, life of addiction, like you got to learn how to do life all over again, right? And be an adult. And so it's like that doesn't just happen overnight, and that's okay. But like, how are our systems supporting that? And that is something more from the macro level where we need more facilities.
Universal health care and universal housing. That's what Finland did. And it sort of took care of a lot of the problems. It's just.
Well, we also need effective facilities.
Yes.
There's a difference. Just creating the buildings themselves, we need it to be done the right way. Yeah. And before they ever even get there, like, I mean, I could go on a soapbox for hours of our community and trauma-filled homes and trying to address some of our kiddos in those earlier intervention stages and school systems.
There's a lot of youth violence going on right now. And Goins actually talked on that about wanting to have like a child-friendly city and building that sort of from the ground up look at mental health and like overall nutrition and home security for these kids. And Alton has an insane poverty rate. It's like double the national average. And that's going to create trauma by its existence.
Absolutely.
Us being this poor, us not having opportunities around this area. And it's like we have a city that's built for twice as many people. And that's creating a lower tax base for things like infrastructure that costs just as much money to maintain. And we have so many empty houses, yet we also have so many people who are experiencing homelessness. And to me, that just, it baffles my mind that we have empty houses and people on the streets. It's just, and then we don't have enough effective care for a lot of people either, like what you're saying. And
Absolutely.
So,
and we're very reactive instead of proactive as well. So like we wait till there is a problem, but a lot of these homes that are experiencing such great degrees of trauma, like it's wrapping around the entire family unit, right? Even our school systems and stuff, it's like, there's kids that are already on the radar or are getting social work services or have IEPs, but there's so many flying under the radar that are not going to walk down the hallway to the counselor's office when they need help to tell them what's happening at home or what mom and dad might need, or, you know what I mean? So it's like, how do we shift to this like proactive way of identifying these kids before the fact, right? I don't know if you're familiar with ACEs, adverse childhood experiences, and like there's screenings. Like we don't screen kids for ACEs.
Very familiar with adverse childhood experiences over here.
Oh yeah,
this is the adverse childhood experience corner.
Should I ask? I won't ask your number publicly. That would be.
But I do. What we were saying about aftercare, and that is the thing. We have immediate crisis intervention for mental health around here, but personally, and I'm very open about my struggle with mental health, and I have had numerous suicide attempts, and it always is like, you go in, you go out. They usually, around, haven't really had much around here, but I was in the hospital a few years ago, and Center Stone is the only option. And it's not that I don't think the staff is trying, but Center Stone is understaffed and underfunded. And I had not bad experiences, but it was hard. I couldn't find a therapist that even remembered my name or anything about me, and they were overworked. So I had to like actually private pay and go to St. Louis when I finally was like, I need to actually 100% like get help and follow, like the follow-up care with that is like they get out, and then most of the time, especially, will stop taking their medicine, following the regimen of what they need to maintain their mental health. So I do agree with you, like especially universal health care would definitely help with that. It would. And
it's also just a huge part of that is stigma, because we just need to break those barriers of treating physical health any different from mental health, and we'd be way ahead of the game.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's the problem. Like, we go to all of our follow-ups and we go to all of our well care visits, right, for our physical health, and you're going to do whatever treatment.
Maybe. I don't.
Well, not always, but it's my insurance.
I don't go to physical doctors. They're scary. They're going to tell me.
Well, I know. Trust me.
It's like, is my pee bubbly?
You are my
Nicole's your
PMancer.
doctor.
As a nurse,
I have several
like,
nurses that act as a team around me, but I have
Gotcha.
a very extensive mental health thing. I've got a great therapist. I have a psychiatrist. Like,
but not
bam,
everyone
bam.
can, I had
I
to
know.
pay out of pocket to
Exactly.
afford those things.
Oh yeah,
Exactly.
no, it costs me money even with good insurance,
Yep,
and I'm just
absolutely.
like,
Yeah.
oh, it's a lot of money to stay good,
Mm-hmm.
but I gotta stay good,
gotta stay good.
or else them aces is gonna get me.
Yep.
Just every day is like, I'm on a bicycle running away from trauma. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
cool, therapy. I can't imagine what it would be like to just compound that. Well, no, I can't. I was a journalist for too long, but I can't imagine not having a safe place to land after
Right.
all of that. Just being like,
Yeah.
well, guess I'm on the street tonight, boys, dealing with all the demons. It's just
Right.
me, my demons, and let's hope I don't get murdered. Because I think another stigma people have is like they're afraid of people experiencing mental health crises and homelessness. And I had a friend who he's schizoaffective. He, because of the way our insurance system works, he got a shot every month. And around the end of the month, he got a little loopy. He would send people insane messages. He would know what day it was, what year it was. And during that time, I'd like to go get him and we'd just hang out with him and be like, hey, you all right, bud? So one time his parents were like, hey, did you take him again? I'm like, yeah, I got him. Can you bring him over? He's got to get a shot. So I brought him over, but his shot got delayed like 2 days. So he got arrested at Casey's for making snow angels in the parking lot and trying to give cops a comic book he had written. And a lot of people were like afraid of him.
Yeah.
Most gentle dude in the world, way more likely to be a victim of a crime than commit one.
For sure.
And
Yeah.
I think that's something a lot of people don't realize is no matter how scary somebody looks while they're experiencing a mental health crisis or experiencing homelessness, they are way more likely to be a victim than they are a perpetrator.
Yeah, so I started teaching mental health first aid, if you're familiar with that. I went through the certified instructor training
Yeah.
for that. I think it helps anybody just understand what those different conditions might present like. Again, not like a, generalization, but what you can kind of expect and how to recognize those early signs versus kind of progressing signs. And I think the biggest thing, whether you're an individual trying to help somebody or an agency's perspective, for me, it's like, what is within my scope? And that's what we need to consistently ask ourselves, because you can have those situations where you might be fearful of somebody that really is not a potential danger to you. On the flip side of that, I think there's also sometimes some extremely compassionate, very well-intended people that can sometimes put themselves in harm that they shouldn't, or insert them into a situation that can be kind of unpredictable, if that makes sense. And we don't want to further harm people. We don't want to potentially put more trauma onto an individual. You know what I mean? I've seen that happen as well. And so, man, I don't know. It's just, it's dig into these conversations. It's educate yourself. It's increase your awareness and get involved and, become engaged, because, that's how you really find your lane and figure out what is within my scope. Like if I'm a compassionate human being, like what do I have the potential to be able to do? And then maybe what do I need to leave to the professionals, or what's somebody else's scope beyond
But
my
even
own?
the professionals, though, and
I
I've
know.
noticed this
I know
trend
where you're going to
because-
go.
Well, and it's not to say that they're not well-meaning,
I know.
okay? But like, my brother is schizophrenic. He's currently in jail for attempted murder charges.
Okay.
He had been a part of a program that was supposed to monitor his medication. He had been involved with law. They knew him. I would actually, when he would stop talking to me, when he was mad at me, I would call the police department. They knew me, my name. I would be like, can you do a welfare check just so I can make sure he's okay? And they knew him because he had assaulted cops, and it was a very small town.
Yeah.
And he was definitely cycling in his mental illness. And his neighbor tried to talk to them because she was about to move because he was threatening her and her children. And she was terrified, and she reached out, and they came by one day for their visits.
Yeah.
And the guy wouldn't even talk.
Well,
They
I'm
just
going to
let
say
him
this,
go, and-
Nicole, like I'm definitely, again, just like law enforcement's not perfect, I've seen some of the worst stigma that I've experienced from emergency
The
departments.
thing I've noticed, though, is I
and
think it's like,
clinicians.
I don't think they didn't care. I think
Right.
that they're understaffed, underfunded. And I also think that I've seen a lot of older caseworkers have burnout. So new graduates who have no experience, very little training coming into these roles.
I
It's the
agree.
younger
There's
generation.
a lot of
21-year-olds
turnover.
barely out of
Yeah.
college.
A lot of young, there's a lot of turnover in the field. And I'm also one of those advocates for this middle ground of the professional and the clinician approach. But I talked with some drug court participants the other day, and they are so appreciative of what's being poured into them right now from like the therapy perspective, and they're getting opportunities that you don't always get, but they also love to sit down and talk to people that get it, that have walked in their shoes, that have lived on the streets, that have been an addict themselves. Because I think for some of us that are in this space, like I have enough lived experience to relate, but I still have barriers I will never be able to cross with certain people. And I'm very upfront about that. And so I think that's where the power of like peers come into play, because I think it really needs to be a combination effort. Like we need those clinicians, and we need highly trained people that understand these diagnoses and how they present and how, the tools to equip with. But I think people feel misunderstood. And I think all of us are really just looking for belonging. And I think it's hard to find that with one or the other, like with just a clinician and not a peer. But I think that voice of lived experience is what needs to be elevated. And we need more people in the field that are the boots on the ground that have walked it before, because I don't know. I mean, you're going to be able to tell us more than any how individuals can relate to you, and how there's always going to be this like dissonance between certain individuals, because they just ultimately, as far your way as I can possibly try to come and empathize, there will always be a barrier that I can't cross. You know what I mean?
Very
Makes
true.
sense.
And there were certain people, like when I was in the hospital, I was pregnant and 18, and I was homeless and had tried to commit suicide. I was scared. Like I was really scared. And I do remember there was one, I think she was a nurse. I'm pretty sure she was a nurse, or like a med tech. She sat with me and just talked to me. And she said, hey, I know it's really scary. And that's why I make lists now, because she taught me, because I was like, I'm so overwhelmed. I have to get a job. I have to figure out what to do. I don't know what to do. I'm so scared. And she's like, here, you got to get a job. Let's write out this bulletin and everything. And she just sat for hours. She sat with me.
That's
and
awesome.
so like there's certain people like that. And then she was a single mom of 5 kids. Like she wasn't professional as like that, you know what I mean? She was just staff working in the hospital, taking my vital signs, and she was very kind, and I will always remember people like that. And I'm sure people remember people like you who are out there doing,
No, I think you need to feel that you're understood by somebody. I think that's what she was able to do for you. And there's varying perspectives and diverse experiences, and that's why I think like you're going to be able to reach someone that I can't, and maybe I can reach someone that you can't, but it takes us all. Like I feel like everybody just has to find their little piece of the puzzle, and
Absolutely.
all comes together.
You do Narcan training, correct?
So I do, and we also partner with several agencies. I love like co-facilitating stuff. So we started doing these conversations on substance use and recovery, and we're having those at Hainer Library. We're starting them back up again this summer. We usually partner with Metro East Recovery Council, which is like our local ROSC. It's our recovery organization coalition.
Yeah.
And Mark Knott always comes and usually co-facilitates with me, and I focus a lot on the recovery conversation and trauma, and he does our Narcan demonstration. I can absolutely do them, and we can give Narcan. I have it on hand and can give it to anybody that wants it, and we can do demonstrations as well.
Where could they get the Narcan? Because I know I have some at the house. Do you have Narcan on?
Mine expired actually, but I don't know if they're open anymore because it's been over a year. But what is that? The Porch Light Collective? Have you ever heard
Porch Light
of them?
Collective. They still will. Yep.
Okay.
They do a lot of harm reduction.
They're amazing for harm
They're
reduction.
Awesome for harm reduction for
So
sure.
where could somebody around here get Narcan?
So you
Just
can
go pick it
shoot
up.
me an email or call me, get a hold of Sacred. We put a dispensing machine in the vestibule of the police department. Now, I know some people are gonna be like, I'm not coming to the PD to get Narcan. But like, I mean, it's there, so it's up to you.
You can get it like before anything happens.
Right.
Like,
I mean, hey.
Yeah, exactly.
Our tax dollars paid for that police station.
So when you
should be
walk
able to
in-
go in at any time you want for any reason.
When you walk in the front door, it's in the little vestibule where like the safe medication drop off is.
Yeah.
There's a Narcan machine on the wall there that you can just pop out boxes. There's 2 in a box that you can take for free, and we stock that regularly. So.
Okay, that's really good to know. That's valuable information.
We also put out, and I need to restock because it's getting kind of low, but we have that, and we have like resource racks with information for like a lot of the local social service agencies, Centerstone providers, like medication stabilization at both the hospitals and all that. So we kind of did the Narcan machine and all those resource racks at the same time. So
Okay, awesome. Love to hear that. So Moving on to other candidates and what
Oh
they
yeah.
said about unhoused
You're
people.
making me go back there.
I know, no, it's okay. I like the tangents. That was a valuable one. So Strabel loved the organization, but he's like, how are you going to fund it? And I know
Right.
you're grant funded.
Yeah.
Is there any worry about funding in the future?
Always.
Okay,
Yes.
so what steps are being taken, and
I
how
mean,
could people help with that?
So, I mean, we are going after new grants continuously. Like Chief Ward
Mhm.
and I are always looking, like he can write on behalf of the APD for grants where they need to partner with like a co-response agency like
Mhm.
mine. I can write that are only eligible for nonprofit that need to have, a first responder kind of thing. And that's what we've done. Our wellness grant was my grant that they're a subaward of. And then our CIT grant that does the community policing was an APD grant that we're a subaward of. So we kind of worked together on that. I just wrote a new one that we submitted. I don't know if we'll get it. We're looking at some other sources. But yeah, I mean, it's going to take a lot of community support to sustain, programs like ours of people just getting behind this and there's significant need. Like I don't think anybody can argue that the need isn't there. So it's just trying to rally that support. Hopefully at some point the city has not put any money towards it specifically yet, other than they did give the police department some of that ARPA funding where we
Mhm.
can buy like tangibles. So that's how we can supply like meal vouchers or bus tokens and bus passes, or we can put somebody in a hotel, like if they're going to go temporarily, like until they get into treatment or like a residential bed, or we can provide hygiene packs or, those any essential needs related things. But other than that, the city hasn't funded like this program beyond like just the grant that we've written for. And so, I mean, hopefully at some point this needs to just become like what we do in this community, right? And hopefully it'll be a diversification of funding, I think, that can hopefully sustain it between grants and maybe the city and then citizens that just want to get behind and support something like it. So that's the goal.
All right, and I talked to Goins about it, and Goins talked about people going back with their families and bus tickets and train tickets. Is that something you provide, or is that
So the ARPA funding can cover that. We've gotten a
okay?
lot of different comments on that.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Yeah, we felt
no,
some type
yeah, I
of
was like,
way.
Yeah.
we both
Yeah,
had
I'm
our
not
ears perked
surprised.
up, like go back
Oh,
with
I've
their.
had people come at me hard on occasion, and I don't blame them. So,
Okay, yeah, well, let's hear it from you.
yeah. So basically, if an individual wants to relocate for whatever reason, maybe they are not originally from Alton and they have family somewhere else or used to live somewhere else and want to get back, or for whatever reason, we can use that ARPA funding for train tickets or bus tickets and things like that. A lot of people have this perception that like we're going around and saying like, hey, you want to leave town? Like hop on the train.
Yeah, that
kind
was
of
my
thing.
first thought.
I know.
It wasn't.
It's all right. And if somebody generally just asks, like we don't always refuse, but no, most of the time it's related to family reunification or they were originally from there. So like, just to give an example, like a couple weeks ago, I had an individual who was here who was originally from an area outside of Dallas, Texas, and she was in like debate on whether to stay or go back. Her parents were there. And so she gave consent and I ended up contacting her parents, and it was kind of like a group collaborative effort back and forth over the course of a week of does she go or does she not? Did she even want to go? And then they were scared to accept her back because of kind of the potential crisis risk they had. There's a lot of families that still love their loved ones but have had to put up boundaries because they just have to take care of themselves at some point. And
That is
and it's a common thing. So I mean, I even went as far as to say, okay, like if you allow her to come and she chooses, why don't I gather some resources? So like I researched treatment facilities closest to their location, behavioral health urgent cares, like all those kinds of things. So we try to do that as often as we possibly can. So I want to try to dispel that myth a little bit that we just like, send them out of town. We do everything we can to, I mean, I've tried to contact like former case managers that they had there, or like I said, most of the time with family, we always want to make sure that they're receptive to them coming. Some of them have been, and then they send them right back, which is
Yeah, that was
awful.
my next question. Is
It's happened.
how often do people come back from that? And they're like,
It's
well,
been a few
back in
times.
Alton.
It's been a few times, but not a ton. I mean, there are times that it does for sure. Like they're most people always want to be where it's familiar, and so if they go back and try and it doesn't work, then they'll come back. We've had that on occasion, but we've had a lot of success and stuff with it too. So Yeah,
Awesome.
it's just one of the pathways is kind of how I explain it to people. It's nothing that we're pushing, but we basically lay out like here are all of the many different things that we can offer to you, and some specifically come asking for it. Like, some people get this crazy whim that they just want to change their environment, which sometimes is a good
Oh,
thing.
believe me.
Um,
I'm
right?
away from my problems.
Right.
Landed in Alton.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. So yeah.
Somehow you're the most stable in Alton too.
No, I'm not.
No? Comparatively to
Are you
other-
smoking crack?
No. I've never smoked crack. Fun fact
Good.
about me.
It's whack. Colin. But no, I do want to ask though, like, do you accept donations that community can help with, like toiletries and things like that?
Yeah,
And
we
how-
do. Right now, it's not that I don't want those donations. I would welcome them, but we have some funding for it.
Okay.
So I also don't want to just like duplicate. The ARPA funding specifically does have to be spent, and it's not my funding, it's through the PD, but it can only be spent on those like tangible type things like hygiene or clothing or meals or bus tokens. Like there's parameters with that. And so this is the tricky thing about like my organization and what we do is it's a people oriented service. And so we need to hire people. We need more boots on the ground. Like I want peer recovery specialists. I want people with lived experience that are out having these conversations. We're also very much about going to the need. So we do community-based services. Like we're meeting people in the library or at the post or McDonald's or the YWCA, like where you're comfortable, we'll come to you. And so we just need more people because we don't have the capacity. Like I can't write all the time. I can't respond to all the crisis situations. So, I mean, our biggest need is we need to grow people capacity more so than like tangibles. It's not that I don't want your shampoo, but
Yeah.
I just don't want to accept something that like really is not a significant need for us because we can fund those things right now. Eventually we'll run out of that. And then we have done in the past, though, put out some like Amazon wish lists, and we did a coat drive and stuff, obviously in the winter. And there's things like that pop up. But other than that, it's just, monetary donations, or we do some fundraising events. We did a trivia night, like that kind of stuff, just to kind of help us diversify the funding would be awesome. So, yeah.
All right. What do you think the biggest crisis facing Altonians right now is whenever it comes to like breaking down the stigma of how they view homeless people? Because every time somebody brings up, hey, people experiencing homelessness are having problems, half the town gets real mad that they were even bothered with it.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
how do you change hearts and minds about this particular subject, especially in Alton? Like, because Alton, all the way back to Lovejoy, half the town hates something, half the town
Yeah.
loves it.
Yeah.
And then we like to fight about it.
Yeah.
And I don't know if every town's like that.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I don't think every town's like that. We're pretty right down the middle and we love to fight.
Yeah, I mean, well, I kind of told you during the break, like, let's just get everybody in a room and let's fight. Like, I mean, I want to see passionate people. Like, I would rather you stand in a room and be passionate and we go in this back and forth exchange in a healthy, obviously, way. I want to learn from people. I feel like we just need to create spaces where people are open-minded and willing to learn from each other and just sit around tables and converse, not just sit around tables and talk about problems, though, and not be action-oriented, because that's a little pet peeve of mine. But I don't know. Like, for me, it's all about elevating the voice of lived experience. Like, we need to know people as human beings, not the labels, right?
Right.
So, I mean, maybe I need to flip this back on you
Yeah,
and
okay.
say, like, this platform that you have and whatever platforms that you might have, like, we need to tell people stories. We need to humanize all people. This is not common to just, addiction or mental health. Let's start humanizing these law enforcement officers. Let's humanize our elected officials.
I
Let's
would love to have
everybody
Chief
needs to be
Ford on
humanized.
here.
Yes.
I will not say fuck the police if you.
No, you can still
I
say
don't
it.
think
I
I
would
can.
love to hear you say it, actually.
I literally just texted him the other day and was like, hey, just so you know, ACAB doesn't mean you whenever I say it. And I sent a little
You
heart
know what?
emoji.
I may be a little harsh on cops, but I have had some good and bad.
Listen,
you know
the
what
way
I
our
mean. I
system's
have.
built, though,
No, yeah.
yeah, you
definitely
kind of
not.
got to be a little harsh on people who have that much
I've dealt
power.
with enough of them for a lifetime now,
Yeah.
but like I definitely, there's been some good ones. You can tell who really comes into it.
You really can. And like it varies so drastically department to department too.
really
Like
Here's the thing that I feel about it, though. I think that's across the board. Like, so my background was education and stuff too. And I have seen plenty of like teachers who also are burnt out and are not doing things in the best interest of kids anymore and lack like all of their passion for like what they came into it. I've seen it in the healthcare industry as well.
Yeah,
like,
I was gonna say
the type
doctors.
of care doctors are. I mean,
ADAB.
just the like lowering of our standards on like the quality of care that we provide to people like is just mind-boggling sometimes. And so like again, I'm not here to defend the police only like just because I work with them, but it's really across the board. That's what I think I mean by like humanizing people. I think everybody needs to be held accountable though. Like I'm all about accountability. I think we need to know people's stories. I think that would really help us because we have so many more commonalities than we do differences, but we always want to
I don't know. So like I was a journalist for about a decade and some change, and I've heard a lot of stories.
Yeah.
I have met tons of stakeholders, lots of just regular ass people, like people on their worst days, their best days, every day in between. There are some people out there who will just they don't give a shit.
Oh no,
at all about anything. And I think that number is growing with more desperation and poverty. It's almost like they don't have the capacity to care anymore. So it's like
they're just trying to survive though.
Yeah.
Don't. That's what it is. Like you have to understand though. They didn't get there for no reason.
No.
Like her,
there's a whole person behind that.
And it's also just easier to be far removed. Like that's the easier out,
I don't
right?
know how to do it.
I don't
either.
If
you can figure it out,
people don't want.
I mean, but everything is politics.
I know.
Every single
they don't
aspect of humanity is the interaction between people and the systems that oversee
They're
them.
just trying to feed their families, though, man. Like they're not concerned.
Like
they don't know.
I mean, it's not like the working class people that I've seen have the most disregard for like things. It's people who are like landlords being like, well, I got to evict you at Christmas and I hate to do it. And it's like, well, then fucking don't do it.
Yeah.
Well, then what am I supposed to do? And it's like, I don't know, maybe housing shouldn't be an investment and should be like a thing that people need to live. And then like they yell at you and call you a communist until eventually you might actually become a communist. Where you're like, all right, well, if you hate it, I love it now. So, I mean, I think a lot of people have common, like they want to be good.
Right.
They want to do right by people. Yeah. And I think a lot of fields attract people who don't exactly want that. And I think you brought up a few of them. Doctors are.
Well, here's my thought on that too, though, is if you don't want to do it or you don't know how to do it, then just trust the people who are doing it. Like, that's what I mean by scope too. Like, not everybody is equipped to do what I want to do. And that's okay. So then support those who are doing it. Because I'm not an advocate for just like any average citizen going out and trying to start like engaging our homeless population all the time and work with substance users at all.
Oh God, no.
At all. So that's a situation. Good-natured, well-intended people want to make a difference. We just need to be able to say, maybe I'm not the one that like has to personally do that myself. Let me get behind the people who are equipped to do it. It's self-awareness and just realistic expectations of knowing that like we're not superhuman and
no, this problem's not going to be solved overnight, and it won't be solved in Alton. Alton's not going to be the epicenter of solving homelessness in America.
And at least just don't cause more harm or trigger further trauma. Like we can be that's such a slippery slope.
Yeah, because a lot of people don't even realize they're about to do that.
No, they don't.
People will just sleepwalk right into hell.
Absolutely.
It's like, oh, I'm going to do a really nice thing. And it's like 4 hours later. Well, now everyone's at the hospital.
Yeah.
It's messy. People are messy.
It's very messy.
Just such messy. Just every part of this situation is messy. Mental health, cops, the streets, and then like, I mean, everything you've said though, like, has made me somehow more anti-capitalist. Like, this entire conversation makes me go, so if we didn't have money as a gatekeeping for basic human needs and decency, then people could be fixed more? I mean, fixing is such a... Because, like, I'm never going to really be fixed from trauma. You're probably never going to be fixed from trauma. It's they stick around. I mean, but like
you learned how to cope with it,
right?
Though,
Coping
and interact better
and
with
process
the world.
it in a healthy way versus unhealthy.
Like the baboon from BoJack said, it gets easier every day. but you have to do it every day.
Yep.
And it's like, it sucks.
I mean,
So
It's
is,
definitely
it's-
perspective.
yeah.
It's the alcoholic who consistently says like I am an alcoholic, not I was, right? Because
Yeah.
I'm choosing this every single day, versus this is something that is now in my past. And so like trauma, the tricky thing about trauma too is that it sneaks up on you at the most interesting and inconvenient and unplanned times. So it's a tricky little beast.
Why is the smell put me in bed for 3 days? How did this happen?
Yeah.
Oh man, why did that weird thing that somebody said to me stick in my head for
Yeah.
2 weeks now? What the fuck? Where am I? How did this
But
occur?
that's why we need to create these spaces and we need like that education to happen because like that's an okay thing. Like we just don't want to accept it. You know what I mean? Like we
It's
have to
messy
just
to see in other
normalize
people.
it. And it's easy to also see that elsewhere, but not look at it within ourselves, right?
A lot of
So
people
we
can't
gotta
see.
normalize it somehow.
Like I've talked to so many people who will tell me the most traumatic story I've ever heard in my entire life. And they're like, I don't have PTSD. And I'm like, bro,
Right. Yeah.
what did you just say that your parents did?
Yeah. Sometimes it's like, not realistically like, the awareness piece of it, but we also compare our trauma. And so I've had to work with a lot of people through like not comparing and like not diminishing your trauma just because it's not
Absolutely.
quite as, extreme as someone else's.
Mm-hmm.
Like my own mom struggled for a long time. Like both of her parents, she was their caretaker as they were elderly and they both passed away under her care. And like she had a lot of effects from grief, but she would have never recognized that as like trauma at all. And like she, she's my biggest fan and supporter. And she would always come to things and just like, well, I've really been really privileged in my life. And I don't have any trauma. And, and I'm like, Mom, you do. And I see it. Like, I love her to death, but like grief is nasty. It's a nasty thing to recover from. And so,
Yep.
again, it's back to the awareness and the education of it. Like, what are all these different types of traumas and what do they do to us? And I do a lot of talking about that, about same event can happen in this room. We all bring different experiences. So we walk out with different effects, right?
Absolutely. So I think we got to wrap it up. I'm
Sounds
getting
good.
I'm getting the nod. But before we go, what can the average Altonian do to make Alton a better place from your perspective? Like we were just talking about how not everyone should go out and try to engage.
Yeah.
Not everyone what is one baseline thing that you could ask everyone to do to make our community a better place from your perspective?
Man, that's tough.
I know.
I mean, I'm really big with you on the civic engagement. I just think people need to find their lane. Like, get out there and figure out what exists, educate yourself and increase your awareness of what's going on in your community. Stay in the know and find all the spaces and realize not every space is meant for you. Like keep trying until you find the one that is meant for you and where you can align and where you can be, the piece of the puzzle because it takes, the whole village and
Yep.
like we don't all have to do all things. When we're all doing all things, we're not doing any one thing well.
Right.
Exactly.
And people might not know that, think they have any skills, but they can
Yeah.
find a program if they're a
got
carpenter,
something.
build a bunk bed for a
Volunteers.
kid who doesn't have, there's always somebody has
There's
some
no
kind of
effort
skill.
that is
Yeah.
too small, in my opinion.
Yeah,
So.
1000% agree. I mean, I'm the town crier, some sort of propagandist. I don't know. So where can people find you? Where can people reach out? Where can people send their money?
All right. Easiest thing is sacredspacesofcare.org.
Okay.
If you go to our website, it has the link to our donation pages. We take various forms of payment there. There's a volunteer inquiry if you just want to say like, hey, here's who I am and some experiences that I've had, want to get plugged in some way. And then like most of our event stuff, we primarily use Facebook, but we're also on Instagram a little bit. So we also are big like advocate of other people's work. So we can kind of be a hub for like other agencies, things that they have going on related to mental health and substance use. And we try to partner a lot. So if you follow our Facebook page, that's going to be a big spot for you to be in the know of what we're up to. So,
All right, cool. Awesome. Well, thanks for coming out. Thanks for
Thank
hanging
you
out.
so
That was
much.
fun.
awesome.